The PS5 has tons of games, but let's be honest, not everything that comes out is worth your time, and definitely not your money. That's why today I brought 20 truly 10/10 single-player experiences, the kind that deliver real quality, not just expensive marketing. No trash here, no half-baked game trying to shove microtransactions down your throat. These are experiences that justify every cent, every lost hour, and every ruined night of sleep. So buckle up, because if you want to play only what really matters on PS5, this list is for you. Death Stranding 2 is the kind of game you look at and instantly know Kojima drank too much coffee, slept too little, and decided to make something only he understands, but somehow, in the strangest way possible, it works. The atmosphere is still absurd, melancholic, and beautiful in a way that feels almost wrong for a post-apocalyptic world. And of course, Sam Bridges is back, hauling things that should absolutely require more than one person. You stare at him and think, man, someone please help this dude. It's poetic, weird, and carries that unmistakable vibe the series owns. But let's be honest, not everything magically improves just because Kojima touched it. The narrative is deep and packed with metaphors, but sometimes it feels like he's asking you to complete a puzzle without all the pieces. There are brilliant, emotional, cinematic moments and others where you're just standing there thinking, okay, this is either genius or I didn't understand anything. The pacing is still uniquely Kojima. If you didn't like the first game, chances are you'll still think this one is too slow. The good news is, the gameplay gained more variety, more gadgets, more traversal creativity, more insane situations that turn the simple act of walking into an epic quest. And visually, it's a living painting. The performance is flawless, the soundtrack hits deep, and every environment feels like stepping onto a new planet. Death Stranding 2 is strange, artistic, and deeply original. It's not for everyone, but for those who dive in, it becomes the kind of experience that lingers for weeks. Worth the money and the time, as long as you know exactly what kind of madness you're signing up for. Ninja Gaiden 4 makes it clear within minutes that it's not here to please you, it's here to test you. Ryu Hayabusa returns with new weapons, nastier enemies, and that insane pace only this series can deliver. You land the first few hits thinking you're doing fine until an attack wipes out half your health and you realize, yeah, this game absolutely refuses to let me relax. The truth is, the difficulty is still absurd. Part of the charm, part of the problem. Some enemies feel specifically trained to punish every wrong move you make. And the camera, even improved, still has its breakdowns, especially when you're surrounded by 5 enemies and desperately need to see something besides particle effects. It's Ninja Gaiden being Ninja Gaiden fast, punishing, and completely allergic to hesitation. The upside is that once you understand the rhythm, everything becomes ridiculously satisfying. Combos snap perfectly, dodges land clean, and every victory feels earned, not because it's pretty, but because you fought your way through it. The stages are varied, the bosses are brutal, and the combat has that real weight that makes you clench your jaw without noticing. Ninja Gaiden 4 doesn't try to be accessible, it tries to be unforgettable. If you enjoy challenges that demand total focus, this is one of the best single-player action experiences the PS5 has to offer.
Tell me.
God of War Ragnarok kicks the door down with the confidence of a game fully aware of the legacy it has to live up to. Kratos and Atreus return with even better chemistry, sharper dialogue, and cutscenes that look straight out of a blockbuster film. Within minutes, you're thinking, okay, this is huge. The action is insane, the world is gorgeous, and the story grabs you instantly. But not everything hits as hard as Kratos' axe. Some side quests drag on just to justify more conversation, and certain narrative beats feel like they could have been tighter. Combat is still incredible, but occasionally you catch yourself repeating the same combos, because the game insists on throwing similar enemy waves at you. None of this breaks the experience, but you can feel the edges. What truly holds the whole thing together is the father and son bond. Every dialogue has weight, every choice matters, and every cutscene seems designed to put a lump in your throat. And when the game delivers its epic moments, it delivers big. Visually, it's ridiculous, the soundtrack hits hard, and when the pacing clicks, it grabs you completely. Ragnarok doesn't reinvent everything, but it elevates everything. And for PS5 owners, it's basically mandatory. Silent Hill F arrives with that unsettling energy the series is famous for. You look at those flower-covered environments and instantly know they're not beautiful, they're warnings. The 1960s Japanese setting gives everything a strange, almost innocent charm, which makes things even worse when the horror finally starts creeping in It's that perfect something is wrong here, but I don't know what yet tension that hooks you in a deliciously awful way. The psychological themes hit hard. The story plays with trauma, isolation, and fear in a way only Silent Hill can. But let's be honest, some narrative choices will absolutely divide opinions, and certain scenes feel intentionally vague, which may frustrate players who want clear explanations. The pacing also swings wildly, sometimes too slow, sometimes too fast, but that's part of the game's strange appeal. The visuals are unforgettable, flowers growing where they shouldn't, distorted bodies, quiet hallways that feel like they're watching you. The soundtrack and sound design do half the work, the other half is you scaring yourself. Silent Hill F doesn't rely on cheap jump scares, it wants to crawl into your mind, poke your anxiety, and stay there for days, and honestly, it succeeds. It isn't perfect, but it's exactly the kind of bizarre, uncomfortable horror the series needed. Dispatch puts you in the role of Robert, a former superhero who lost his powers and now tries to keep helping the world as a dispatcher. The story pulls you in immediately because instead of direct action, you handle everything from the operations room. Every call feels urgent, and every decision genuinely makes you tense. Right from the beginning, it's clear. You're not just assigning missions, you're dealing with lives, and that gives the character a massive emotional weight. The Z Team, made up of former villains trying to turn their lives around, is where the game truly shines. Each one has a strong personality, their own humor, and a past that lingers even during lighter moments. The conversations feel natural, full of small details that make you care way faster than you expect. And the more time passes, the clearer it becomes that you're not just dispatching, you're guiding lost people. The pacing stays tense, full of strategic silences and decisions that feel bigger than they should. The story moves forward in a simple way, but with strong moments that catch you off guard. Robert, trying to find purpose again, carries everything with a tired expression but a stubborn will. And as the Z Team grows, you grow with them. Dispatch is short, focused, and full of humanity, the kind of game that sticks with you because of the people, not the missions. Astro Bot wins you over in the very first seconds, not because it tries to impress you with something huge, but because everything in it is made with an enthusiasm that's impossible to ignore. The story starts simple. Your crew has been scattered across different worlds, and now you need to find them. But every level you enter feels like a love letter to the act of playing video games. Everything has life, color, and rhythm, and it's clear the game wants to make you happy at every step. No mystery, no complications. It's that rare kind of experience that gets you in the mood instantly. Creativity is what keeps everything beating. Every world brings a new mechanic, a surprise, a little detail that catches you off guard. The dual sense is so active, it feels like a real partner in the adventure, reacting to the environment, platforms, and even the type of surface. And even though it's a light game, it still gives that satisfying sense of progression, of constantly discovering something new. Astro doesn't need to say a single word to show personality, he just exists, and that alone is enough to make you root for him. Astro Bot works because it delivers genuine fun. The soundtrack is upbeat, the levels are built with care, and the PlayStation references make any fan smile. It's a game that doesn't want to stress you out, doesn't want to compete with cinematic blockbusters, it just wants to remind you why video games are so special, and it succeeds. Astro Bot is charming, straightforward, and filled with small moments that turn a simple adventure into something truly memorable for any PS5 owner. Hellblade 2 hits you emotionally in a way very few games try and even fewer manage. Senua returns stronger, more vulnerable, and more human than ever, and right from the start you feel this is going to be a heavy journey. The narrative leans entirely on her point of view, making you see the world through her fears, her inner voices, and her unresolved trauma. Every scene feels intentional, every breath carries meaning, and the game places you inside her mind with zero comfortable filters. Combat follows that same tone, direct, raw, and full of weight. There's no exaggeration, no empty spectacle, only intensity. Each fight feels personal, as if Senua were battling something far bigger than the enemy in front of her. The environments reinforce this constantly, presenting places that feel as symbolic as they are real. The sound design is almost frightening in its precision, turning simple noises into essential pieces of immersion. Hellblade 2 doesn't try to be epic in scale, it's epic in emotion. As the story moves forward, it becomes clear that the game has no interest in dragging anything out. It wants to show transformation, pain, strength, and fragility all within one character. The soundtrack amplifies the emotional weight, the quiet moments say more than dialogue ever could, and the whole journey feels built to be felt, not just watched. Hellblade 2 is intense from beginning to end. an intimate experience that stands out for its honesty. On PS5, it's not a game you simply play, it's one you walk through alongside the protagonist. Ghost of Yōtei opens with a sense of cold that isn't just weather, it's emotional. Snow covers everything, but the silence covers even more. And right in the first scenes, you can tell the story wants to show someone dealing with wounds that never truly healed. The aesthetic is effortlessly beautiful, full of contrast between calm spaces and hidden dangers, and every environment feels heavy with history before anyone says a word. The best part is that combat follows this heavier tone. It's not loud or exaggerated. It's precise, direct, and full of impact. Fights feel soaked in the world's mood, as if each encounter had a reason to exist. And the setting does a lot of the work. Abandoned villages, untouched temples buried in snow, and paths that look forgotten by everyone except the protagonist. It all creates a journey far deeper than simply moving to the next area. But what truly anchors Ghost of Yōtei is the emotional side. The protagonist carries a weight the game never needs to spell out. You feel it in the way he moves, looks, and reacts. It's a restrained, mature story made for players who enjoy games where the environment tells half the narrative, and as everything progresses, the game delivers moments that stick with you, not because they're grand, but because they're sincere. A powerful, well-crafted experience on PS5. Sword of the Sea starts with that calm atmosphere reminiscent of Journey, but with its own identity. The protagonist glides across dunes with a swordboard, and within minutes, you can already feel the game wants to bring you peace, not pressure. The art direction carries everything: soft colors, massive ruins, enormous creatures just watching from afar. It's a game that prefers showing rather than explaining, and it works beautifully. Movement is the star of the show. Sliding down a dune, picking up speed, weaving through ruins and tight curves, it's endlessly satisfying. Nothing feels forced, nothing needs a tutorial. It's pure learn by doing in the best way. As exploration unfolds, the world reveals new paths, larger structures and spaces that feel built for you to experiment, mess up, and try again without stress. And even without traditional combat, the game maintains a constant sense of discovery. What's most interesting is how the story doesn't rely on dialogue. The environments say everything. Vanished civilizations, strange symbols, massive halls, hinting at something greater. The soundtrack steps in only when needed, reinforcing that contemplative mood. Sword of the Sea is about movement, sensation, and rhythm, a game made to quiet your mind and let you sink into a world that feels alive without demanding anything in return. A simple, memorable experience perfect for players who enjoy more emotional, atmospheric journeys on PS5. Spider-Man 2 carries that vibe of, my life is a mess, but the city isn't going to save itself. And it works so well because both Peter and Miles feel like people trying to do their best while everything falls apart around them. It's not just about giant villains and explosive set pieces, it's about two guys with real problems trying to look strong. The game leans into that more intimate side in a way that gets to you before you realize it. The city is still an absurdly fun playground. Swinging between buildings is that free therapy everyone needs once in a while, and the game knows it. There are moments when you're just moving around because it feels good. The main missions hit with emotional weight, the side quests have honest surprises, and the villains, especially the more personal ones, deliver far more than just punches and intimidating poses. You can feel that events actually affect the characters. The point is, Spider-Man 2 isn't trying to be perfect, it's trying to be human. There are tough conversations, doubt, that awkward silence between characters who clearly want to talk but don't know how. And when the epic moments finally happen, they hit harder because you're already invested in their lives. It's a game that mixes heart, chaos, and fun in the right way. No exaggeration, no fluff, just honesty. Elden Ring is the kind of game that explains nothing, but in a way that doesn't annoy you, it just makes you curious. You look at that huge broken world and think, okay, there's something here, but I'll figure it out on my own. That immediate sense of freedom is what makes everything click. Nothing pushes you, nothing forces you to go anywhere specific. You follow this strange instinct for exploration that becomes part of the fun. Combat is still pure From Software. Tense, direct, and full of moments where you almost die but end up laughing because the situation is ridiculous. Every enemy has that energy of, I'm going to teach you something. Sometimes with kindness, sometimes with pain. And when you beat something tough, it's not theatrical victory, it's that real exhale of, wow, finally. Exploration rides that same feeling with hidden caves, bizarre locations, and bosses that appear out of nowhere just to remind you that you don't control anything here. The most interesting part is how the story lives between the lines, rather than in dialogue. You piece everything together slowly, not because the game hands it to you, but because the world shows it to you. And that gives Elden Ring a different vibe. It feels like an adventure you experience, not a story someone tells you. It's strange, dense, full of unexpected moments, and that's why it stays in your mind. Horizon Forbidden West has that feeling of, I know the world is falling apart, but someone still has to try fixing this. Aloy arrives more mature, more tired, yet with the same stubbornness that made everyone like her in the first game. The charm here is how the world opens up naturally, alive, full of places that feel like they have their own stories without needing a cutscene to explain them. You just look and understand, yeah, someone went through something serious here. Combat remains that blend of planning and improvised chaos. Sometimes you walk into a fight with everything mapped out, and sometimes you just accept the machine will run you over if you hesitate. That's what makes the game fun. It doesn't try to turn you into a superhero, it makes you feel like someone who survives, because she refuses to quit. Exploration hits that same note. Every corner feels like it's hiding something, even when the game doesn't deliberately point you toward it. But the best part of Forbidden West is how it handles characters. Conversations feel more natural, the drama feels more human, and even the sci-fi insanity moments make sense because the expressions, the intentions, and the performances feel honest. Aloy doesn't feel alone anymore, and that shifts the entire atmosphere of the game. In the end, Forbidden West works because it delivers a huge world while still making space for quiet moments, the kind that stay with you long after you finish the story. Returnal starts with everything feeling wrong in the best possible way. Selene crashes on the planet, looks around, and you can immediately feel she's trying to hold on to her sanity while pretending she still has control. The atmosphere is heavy, not because it's scary, but because everything feels familiar and alien at the same time. The game uses that to create a constant sense of there's something here I don't understand yet. Gameplay is where the game shines effortlessly. It's fast, precise, and so fluid that you fall into the rhythm without noticing. Each loop doesn't feel like punishment, it feels like opportunity. You try, die, return, and try again, not because the game forces you, but because you genuinely want to see what's behind that door you finally opened. And when combat heats up, it's clear the game doesn't want you to panic, it wants you to dance with it. Rhythm-wise, not in a cheesy way, you get it.
What hits hardest is the fragmented storytelling.
Selene seems to be chasing answers no one wants to give, and the game keeps everything vague on purpose. Photos, recordings, echoes of the past, everything feels like it's pointing to something painfully personal, and that keeps your curiosity alive the entire time. Returnal is strange, intense, and filled with that dark charm that only works because the journey is painful but addictive. It's the kind of game where you say one last run, and that last run becomes another, and another, and another.
Winter getaway.
The Until Dawn remake has that vibe of a story you think you already know, but suddenly feels different because it's being told with more care. The characters still have that energy of a group of friends who don't actually know each other that well, and that makes everything even more uncomfortable. The updated visuals help a lot because the expressions now deliver details you used to only imagine. Nervous glances, crooked smiles, silences that last half a second too long. The magic is still in making choices that look small, but always come back to haunt you. There's no escape. You think you're doing the right thing and suddenly realize you absolutely ruined someone's life. The game embraces the group's emotional chaos, giving every scene that tension that doesn't rely on cheap scares. The situations are bizarre, but the human reactions are what really keep you hooked, because no one there behaves brilliantly, which honestly makes everything more believable. The updated narrative adds more weight to the relationships. Dialogues flow better, choices feel clearer and more painful, and the pacing seems more mature, as if someone truly understood what worked in the original and polished it instead of reinventing it. The remake doesn't try to be something else, it retells the same story in a sharper, cleaner, more honest way, and that's why Until Dawn remains chaotic, funny, and desperate in all the right ways on the PS5. Clair Obscur, Expedition 33, has a world that looks too beautiful not to be hiding something, and you can immediately feel something's off. The art style is so stylized it looks like a painting in motion, creating a strange contrast with a story about a world condemned year after year. The protagonist carries a huge weight, and the game never tries to soften that. You feel it through her voice, her expressions, and even the way she observes the world. The rhythm-based combat is a pleasant surprise. It's not about being fast, it's about paying attention to the exact moment. The camera, the animations, everything feels like the game is telling you, breathe, look, think before acting. And that calm in the middle of chaos fits the tone perfectly. Each new area comes with that feeling of, I want to see everything, but I'm also afraid of what comes next, because the world is beautiful and sad at the same time. What really makes Expedition 33 stick is the constant sense that time is running out. The characters you meet carry fear, hope, and doubt that don't feel shallow. The story doesn't try to be mysterious for aesthetic reasons. It tries to show a people holding on to the little they have left while something inevitable approaches. It's a game that mixes beauty with despair in a way that never forces anything. It simply shows. And that makes the experience far stronger than it seems at first glance. Red Dead Redemption 2 works because Arthur Morgan feels real from the very first scene. He doesn't act like a hero trying to be epic. He acts like someone tired, trying to keep the group standing while everything around him seems to be falling apart. And that gives a completely different weight to every conversation, every simple mission, every encounter that happens out of nowhere. The story doesn't scream, it just unfolds, and you feel like you're watching people doing their best inside a situation nobody truly controls. The world follows that same energy. Nothing feels like it was made to impress you, it feels like it was made to exist. Towns feel alive, characters react naturally, and even a quiet horse ride turns into a different experience depending on the weather, who you run into, and how you choose to behave. A lot of what happens doesn't even feel like mission content, just events popping up in the most unexpected ways, and that's what makes the game so easy to get lost in. The emotional weight comes from how the game treats Arthur. He makes mistakes, gets things right, tries to help, hides what he feels, and sometimes just watches because he no longer knows what to do. It's not forced drama, it's just someone dealing with his own conscience while everything collapses. And when the story picks up, it hits hard precisely because you already understand who he is. Red Dead Redemption 2 doesn't try to be grand all the time. It tells an honest story full of imperfect people. And that's why it still feels unbelievable today. Monster Hunter Wilds makes it clear early on that the world doesn't revolve around you, and that gives the game a whole new life. Creatures are always doing something, fighting each other, running from storms, or simply ignoring you because they have bigger priorities than turning into loot. And that the world works without you feeling makes every hunt different, even when you're chasing the same monster again. Nothing feels scripted, everything feels alive. The new flow of exploration makes a real difference. A more useful mount, biomes with aggressive weather shifts, and huge areas that open naturally instead of depending on waypoints. You start by doing the basics and, without noticing, you're improvising routes, using the terrain to gain advantage, and reading monster behavior like they're actual animals rather than attack patterns. It's that natural progression that makes everything fun to experiment with. The best part is how much personality the creatures have. Each monster has its own way of existing, not just fighting. Some stare at you, some avoid you, some cause chaos without even realizing you're there. Learning those habits becomes half the fun. Wilds doesn't try to reinvent everything. It simply takes what worked and makes it more organic, more flexible, more unpredictable. It's Monster Hunter with more soul, more accidental humor, and more stories created simply because you happen to be in the wrong place at the most chaotic moment possible. Assassin's Creed Shadows gets things right immediately by finally delivering a Japan that feels lived in instead of a postcard. Characters have wants, fears, and problems that don't sound like they were written just to push the plot forward. Naoe and Yasuke don't feel like a ready-made dynamic duo. They feel like two completely different people trying to find a way to coexist in a broken country. That makes every scene more interesting because the game doesn't force a perfect friendship. It lets their relationship grow at its own pace. The open world structure is more contained in the best way possible. Instead of drowning you in icons, Shadows makes you curious about the right places. Tense villages, castles that look dangerous just from the silence, forests hiding more than they show. Gameplay follows that tone. Playing as Nowo is all about patience and precision. Playing as Yasuke is pure force. Switching between them gives you that great feeling of seeing the same world through completely different lenses. The best thing is how the game handles violence and choices. There's no exaggerated glamour or flashy, look how stylish this move is. There's weight, consequence, people reacting. Main missions have better pacing than recent AC games, and side quests feel more human, less like a checklist. Shadows doesn't try to reinvent the franchise again, it simply tells a story with characters who genuinely have something at stake. And that already makes it one of the most solid and interesting AC entries in years. Metal Gear Remake starts with that strange feeling of running into something you know by heart, but that now feels heavier, more serious. Snake is still Snake. Few movements, few words, but that look that tells you he knows more than he should. The infiltration atmosphere works better than ever, because the remake doesn't try to exaggerate anything, it just makes everything clearer, quieter, and uncomfortable in the best possible way. It's that good kind of nostalgia that doesn't try to force emotion, it just lets your memories come back naturally. The stealth itself gained a fluidity the original could never have. Guards actually change routines, bases feel like they have a life of their own, and every step demands more attention without becoming annoying. Nothing here turns into a spectacle. There's no urge to transform everything into a giant action scene. It's a game that embraces the think before you move vibe, and that's exactly why every advance, every opening, every improvised distraction feels so much more engaging. It really feels like you're inside a complicated operation, not inside a stealth theme park. What surprises most is how well the narrative aged with the new presentation. The characters feel more human, with conversations that sound less mechanical and expressions that finally reflect the weight of the story. The villains feel more intense, the allies have more nuance, and Snake seems even more closed off, but in a way that makes complete sense. Metal Gear Remake doesn't try to reinvent anything, it just brings out what was already strong, now with the maturity the series always deserved. It's the kind of remake that doesn't scream, "Look how modern I am," it just delivers something familiar with far more presence.
The Cobras will take care of him.
Baldur's Gate 3 has that energy of a game that doesn't wait for you to get comfortable, it just exists. Huge, full of complicated people in situations that spiral out of control way too fast. Right from the start, you can feel that everything works because the characters actually have real personality. They disagree, get into trouble, make questionable choices, and sometimes feel more alive than an NPC is supposed to be. It's an RPG where you don't just pick paths, you deal with the consequences in ways that can be funny, awkward, or completely chaotic. The combat has that strategic rhythm that seems slow at first, but once it clicks, it becomes a perfectly planned mess that fits the game's tone too well. It's the kind of fight where a mistake turns into a story to tell later, and a perfect move becomes a ridiculous moment of pride. Exploration follows the same vibe. You walk into a place thinking you found loot, and end up making a pact with some strange entity, arguing with a goblin, or saving someone by accident. The game embraces this chaos naturally, as if everything was meant to happen like that. What really holds Baldur's Gate 3 together is how it lets you build your own version of the journey. Nothing feels locked in, nothing feels designed for just one outcome. Your choices matter in ways you don't even realize at the time, and that makes everything feel more personal. The main story has weight, but it's the small conversations, the internal group drama, and the unplanned madness that turn the game into a unique experience. Baldur's Gate 3 works because it trusts the player, and that makes everything feel more alive than any tightly scripted story ever could. And that's it! 20 single-player games that stick to your mind so fast that just 30 minutes turn into a full-on disappearance from real life. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like, because it really helps the channel keep bringing lists like this. Now tell me in the comments which game should be here too, and which one caught you by surprise. If you're new around here, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next lists. There's a lot of crazy stuff on the way. Thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next video.